taped down. All right. Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Cool. All right, I was recently asked about the first time I realized I was an adult. That's a pretty heavy question, and I wish I had a better answer, but this is what I came up with. When I was 21, I moved from Michigan to Atlanta. In order to move cross country, I packed up my 2001 Nissan Altima with a couple of suitcases of clothing and some pots and pans, most of which I gathered from cleaning out my mother's kitchen, grabbing whatever unopened 1980s wedding gifts and rarely used dishware and utensils I could get my hands on. But for the most part, I didn't own much stuff or had really anything of value to bring with me. After an intensive research process of finding a rental property in the city of Atlanta that fit my budget, was in a decent part of town, and where I wouldn't get murdered, I finally moved into my first grown-up apartment. So after my mom and her boyfriend finished helping me move in and left to drive back to Michigan, I sat down alone on the floor in the wide, vast living room of my new, empty apartment. And there was something about being in an empty space in a city I barely knew and not knowing anyone that hit me pretty hard. And I realized at this moment that I was an adult. I looked around the room and decided I was going to need some furniture to make my apartment a less daunting place to come home to. The timing in which I moved down was exactly a month before I started my first post-college job, and I was just broke. I did what any person without a steady paycheck would do. I bought the bare minimum, a futon to sleep on, and basically nothing else until I could start my new job and actually pay for furniture. But luckily for me, I moved into a mid-priced apartment complex in kind of a yuppie part of town, meaning I had access to a pool and a mini gym and some really divey bars and a relatively young professional slew of neighbors. The thing about young professional neighbors is that they're always moving somewhere. And after a couple of months, I noticed on my walks to the communal apartment dumpster that people were constantly throwing away semi-usable stuff. Like lamps and old wooded furniture and big box TVs, and all of this gave me an idea. I ran home and got onto Microsoft Word with my very minimal design skills, and I pieced together a sheet that read, "Hey you, do you have furniture you don't need? Donate it to a good cause." A good cause was clearly in quotes on purpose. We take tables, chairs, lamps, couches, home goods, and more. Declutter your home. Give your furniture life again. Then I included my contact info at the bottom with a nickname from high school that I no longer went by. This would let me know that if I got a call from a number that I was unfamiliar with and they addressed me by that name, that either one of my old friends got a new number or this was going to be a stranger that would soon be giving me housewarming gifts. As cheesy as this was, I quickly printed off this poor excuse for a flyer and posted it on the bulletin board next to the mailbox area in the complex. And after a while, every couple of weeks, I got a variation of the same phone call. It went a little something like, they said, "Hello, I saw you're taking furniture." Me, "Yes, ma'am, that's correct. We're accepting donations at this time." Them, "Where exactly do these donations go?" Me, "Well, ma'am, they go to local temporary worker households in the Atlanta area for those who are unable to afford furniture." This was technically not a lie, but more of a stretching of the truth. I was in a rotational program and couldn't afford furniture. So then they would say, "Okay, then I have a couch. I'd like to donate. What do I do?" Me, "Well, we can send one of our qualified inspectors over to your place in order to see if the item you would like to donate is in working order and a match for one of our current recipients." This was my best version of quality control. I was not about to commit to schlepping any flea-ridden piece of garbage anyone was going to give away without making sure that it fit in my apartment or at least suited my decor and or color scheme. Haha, just kidding, what color scheme, am I right? Eventually, the conversation would lead to me booking a viewing appointment with the caller where I would come over and see if they had anything worth grabbing up. Upon my arrival to their home, my client would invite me in, show me the item, let's say a couch, and ask if I could take it off their hands. Because I was pretending to be the furniture inspector, I would pick up the cushions, then maybe cautiously fluff them once or twice. I would then check around the couch to make sure there were no big rips or stuffing coming out of any gaping holes. Oftentimes, I would offhandedly make a comment about the quality and wear of the fabric. Basically, I tried to pretend I looked like I knew what I was doing, which in reality I most definitely did not. Eventually, I would make the decision of whether to take the item and drag it the short distance between this person's apartment and my own, or to reject the item altogether and claim it unsuitable for our recipients at this time, if it was ugly, or logistically not within our means of transport, if it was too big. Believe it or not, this plan actually worked, and within 6 to 8 months, I was finally able to fill my apartment with the basic necessities. I had a couch, 3 floor lamps, a desk, various shelving units, 2 coffee tables, one of which was being used as a TV stand, a TV with VHS and DVD player attached, a lime green Victorian love seat, a dinner table, 2 cheap lawn chairs, an IKEA lack table. Yes, we all know the $8 one that only comes in one of 3 neutral colors, a DVD rack, a decorative chair that I used as a nightstand for a while, and some shitty artwork that I removed from the frames and replaced with my own stuff to fill up the walls. At this point, I was very lucky to have what I had. However, I kept on with this interesting experiment I had going. It was clearly working well for me, and I knew if I stopped, all this stuff would be trashed anyway. So whenever I would get something donated that was nicer than an item I currently had, I would just swap out my old item for the newer and better find, and then I would give the leftovers to my friends, most of which were also in their 20s, and they didn't have furniture either. They loved it. Every time I had a new gem to give away, they were open and willing to accept. Over time, some of my friends would even have requests, like, if you ever get a set of bar stools, can you let me know? Or, I'm really in the market for a new bookshelf. There was one time when a neighbor had moved out of their apartment, leaving me with 2 couches. I texted 2 of my friends, both of which I knew were actively looking for one. I texted them at the exact same time, and I told them I have 2 couches. First come, first serve. You never quite get to know your friend's true nature until you see them both standing in the middle of an apartment complex parking lot, arguing and negotiating in the rain between 2 used couches about who gets to have the more modern-looking, but still shitty-looking, used drab couch. During the year that I lived in that same apartment, I swapped out 5 times for couches, 3 times for newer TVs, and had a curiously ever-changing nightstand. Months later, at about the time that I finally got my apartment looking the way I wanted to, I was notified by the company I worked for that I was being relocated to Houston. So upon saying all of my goodbyes to Atlanta, for the next couple weeks I listed all the furniture on Craigslist. I sold half of it and gave the rest away to friends and neighbors and acquaintances that really just needed some new stuff. So when it was time to pack up, I left Atlanta once again, with only my clothes, some kitchen stuff, and the only piece of furniture I did actually buy, my mattress, to move to Houston, where I have since lived with roommates with fully furnished apartments. I have yet to buy a single piece of furniture since then.